How to create employment in a country. In this video, I will discuss a few points which will help which usually help in generating employment, in creating employment opportunities for people. Hi guys, my name is Himanshu Mansal and you're watching my channel. Employment is simply when a person is working for a company or a person is self-employed, working for himself. What are the main things which need to be taken care of when we want to create employment, when we want to have employment opportunities for all the people in a country? The first point is the education system. The education system in a country is very, very important for law and order purposes, for taking the country forward, for the growth of the economy, for the growth of human development, and for giving everyone the knowledge and skills which they need to have in order to compete with the world, in order to compete with the society which they have, in order to compete with everyone and earn a living for themselves. The education system plays a very important role when it comes to generating employment, when it comes to creating employment, because if the education system is strong, the product which is coming out of that, in this case the product is the human product, which is the people who are passing out from colleges and people who are passing out from PhDs and postgraduate schools. If they have proper skills, if they have proper knowledge, if they are trained in a really good manner, they will end up earning really well for themselves, and they will earn a very good living for their family, and they will keep the food on the table for their family. In India, the biggest problem which we are facing right now is the education system when it comes to employment. 90% of the graduates and postgraduates which we have are not at all employable. Employment is one thing, employability is another thing. Creating employment is fine, but we also need to have employability. Employability is simply a person's ability, whether he or she can be is able or is eligible to be employed for a particular job. 90% of Indian graduates are not at all employable, and many CEOs of big companies have said that in India we do not have a problem of manpower, we have a problem of employability of manpower. Education system is something which is the first thing, which is the first step which every government who is looking to create employment should focus upon. The second point is bureaucracy and corruption. Bureaucracy and corruption are sort of things which are really, really common in many countries. I'm not talking about only India, but in many countries these two things are very, very common. And what happens is that because of this bureaucracy and corruption, sometimes an incompetent person is promoted to a post which is not at all where he is not at all doing any justice for the people. Like for example, if we have an education minister or an education officer who is not at all qualified, how can he or she help in improving the education system? Usually what happens is that a wrong person is employed on a very important post, on a post which is not at all for that person. This creates a lot of problems in an economy, and this is mainly due to bureaucracy and corruption. The next point is government policies. Government policies include policies for startups, policies for entrepreneurs, policies for businesses, and policies for the normal people as well. Government policies are not at all supporting startups, not at all supporting entrepreneurs, not at all supporting business owners. How will they build up a business? And if they are not able to build up a business, then they cannot generate any employment, they cannot create any employment opportunities for the people. If I tomorrow go and start up a business, and the business and the government policies are supporting me, and I am able to grow the business, I will employ 10 other people. I am reducing the burden of unemployed people in the country. But if the government policies are not at all supporting me, then I may even fail, and I may even not be able to employ even 10 people. So simply government policies are something which needs to be in support of entrepreneurs, in support of the people, in support of business people basically, in support of startups, in support of self-employed people. This will help in easing off the pressure which is on government sector for jobs. In India, people are so mad about, so crazy about government jobs that the competition level is so high that out of say for example 5 million applicants, only 5,000 are being selected. So this is something which is of utmost important, that government policy should also be so government policies may include taxation policies. Sometimes what happens is the taxation policy is so vague and so manipulative that even businesses are like, it is really hard for businesses to follow those policies, and they end up doing something wrong. It wastes a lot of time of businesses in order to comply with tax policies and everything. The next point is promoting manufacturing and infrastructure sector. Manufacturing and infrastructure sector are two sectors which employ a lot of people, which creates a lot of employment, directly as well as indirectly. Now, to give you an example, suppose there is a real estate builder who wants to build up a building, who wants to build up, say for example, a residential tower which is say 15 floors big, and it has say, and the project has around 5 or 6 towers. He will be employing around 2 to 3,000 laborers. He will be employing around 10 to 20 contractors for that project. This is regarding construction. Then you have painting work. You will employ some painters as well. Then you have plumbing work. You have electricity work. You have some other sort of construction and finishing work as well. Apart from that, when the society has been built up, you need gardeners, you need guards, you need maintenance staff, you need all the cleaning staff, you need like electricians, you need plumbers, and all those people. Those people are also getting employed. These were direct employment which an infrastructure or a construction project will give. But what about the indirect effects? Suppose I purchase a flat there, and if I am shifting there, I will be employing a domestic worker for my household things. She is getting employment. Or I will be purchasing furniture for that. The furniture market will be getting money, will be getting income from that. And if they get income, they will also grow. And if they will grow, they will create employment. I am purchasing some groceries, I am purchasing a car for myself, I am purchasing appliances. All these industries will also grow. These are indirect effects of those things. And if an industry grows, it creates more and more employment opportunities for the people. How was China able to give employment to so many people? It was simply because of the manufacturing and the infrastructure sector. They have invested billions and billions and trillions of dollars in their manufacturing sectors. They have eased out government policies. They have like promoted manufacturing to such an extent that now China is called the factory of the world. And you know that in China there are many factories, there are many manufacturers, and this manufacturing has single-handedly taken China to number 2nd spot and has played a really key role in improving the GDP of China and in growing China to the 2nd biggest economy in the whole world. The next point is tax policies. Now, tax policies I had discussed in the government policies point, but tax policies also need to ease out for general public as well. Income tax policies, direct tax policies. Because you see, if income tax and direct taxes are very high, then what will people earn? What will people eat? If a person is earning 100 rupees and if he or she is paying 40 or 50 rupees in taxes, then what will they use? Half of the effort of an employee is wasted in taxes. And trust me guys, all the tax money is not used for development. This is a big myth that some people have. All the tax revenue which is being collected is not at all used on maintenance, on development and everything. Many of them is used in corruption, bureaucracy and everything, and all these things. So please do not have this impression in your mind that all the taxes which I am paying is going to the army, going to the air force, going to development, going to building of roads, metro and all these things. Next point is import and export policies. Import and export policies are really important. The reason why I'm saying this is because what is happening in India right now is China has entered in many sectors. China has entered in many different sectors, whether it is electronics, whether it is plastic goods, whether it is household items, whether it is furnitures and everything. The local market which we have, the local domestic market which we have is being destroyed. Many factories have closed down, many people have closed down their businesses just because they are facing competition from China. And this is simply because the import and export policies of India is not at all promoting the domestic the domestic sector, the local manufacturers here. They are supporting more of Chinese products, more of products from, like for example, textile products from Bangladesh, or textile products from Thailand, Ethiopia and Vietnam and all. If import and export policies are strict enough that all the imports from these countries will be charged with this import duty and with all those things, then the domestic market will be much more able to compete with the prices of all these products and will be competitive enough. But right now what is happening, the import export policy is so big that many countries, I would say not only India, many countries are dependent on other countries. I will not take the names of some of the countries, but there are some Asian countries, some small Asian countries nearby India, I would say, to give you a hint, who are now 90 to 100% dependent on China. They do not have any industry of their own. They are totally dependent on China, and the biggest problem with them is their domestic economies have been destroyed and they are totally dependent on China. And what if tomorrow China backstabs them? Then I do not know what will happen. Last but not least, another point is to promote the domestic market that you have. Try and promote your domestic market as much as you can, because if you are promoting the domestic market, your people are getting employed. But if you are promoting the international market, then your people are not getting employed. Yes, some importers and exporters may earn some money, but ultimately your people will not get that much employment opportunities. So promote your domestic economy, promote your domestic market. That is of utmost important. So guys, these were a few points which will help in creating employment. If you have any more points to add, please comment down below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and also share it with your friends and family. I will see you in the next video. Thank you and have a nice day.